Almost everyone here, I think, will agree that corruption in India is pervasive, it is omnipresent, and it is diverse or multifarious. Pervasive, you see it everywhere. Omnipresent, there are very few exceptions when you look at sectors, and multifarious, that is diverse. And it is to be encountered especially in the nexus between politics and business. When you talk about business, the defense sector or the military sector is a prime example. And when we are doing the Bofors investigation and wondering what these so-called commissions were about, whether they were standard, whether they had got normalized, and so on, an unexpected tip came to me from the then President of India, R. Venkataraman. I mentioned this in a book I did on corruption. He had held various ministerial portfolios, including defense, finance, defense. And he was of the old school, from the freedom struggle. And he told me at that point, of course off the record, but I don't think there's any problem in mentioning it here because it only puts him in a positive light. He said, don't you know that the standard rate of commission in major defense deals is 6%? Now, although it was an informal tip, somebody with that background, I think you had to be taken seriously. And indeed, when we looked at the documents, often it was 6% or 3%, and then 6% and even more. But very often the average would be 6% of the contract value. Corruption has also become normalized. It would be a mistake, I think, to see it as a pathological condition. It is the normal state, and there are exceptions. And of course, I don't want to go too much into the detail, but there is something called grand corruption. It goes back to a famous statement by Hegel, who in describing the state of the church, the Catholic Church of his times, said that, described it as a great and general corruption. That is, these are not exceptions, not aberrations in the system, but the system itself. And in the literature on corruption, which is quite abundant today, there's theory as well as empirical studies, you will see the term as a category, grand corruption. Grand corruption is something that affects institutions, that is implicit in policies, that is manifest in policies. And of course you look for exceptions, but unless you look at the defense sector as a sector where grand corruption is the normal condition, because corruption is not just taking bribes. Corruption involves arbitrary decision making. Corruption involves crony capitalism, providing favors. Corruption covers lobbying in the corridors of the Defense Ministry or elsewhere to get a deal. Corruption involves using agents, commission agents, who try to fix the deal. This applies to many sectors, but we are here primarily talking about the defense sector in India. As everyone knows, this has become an issue, and the Indian opposition, particularly Rahul Gandhi, Congress President, has been on a vigorous offensive, charging the NDA government and particularly the Prime Minister Narendra Modi with bypassing institutions and procedures for defense acquisitions, causing huge losses to public funds, compromising national security, and using the multi-billion-dollar Rafale deal. It's actually 7.87 billion euros, the cost of the whole package, that is the aircraft package plus the weapons package, 7.87 billion euros. You could convert it into crores of rupees. And they've also accused the government, Mr. Modi, of covering up corruption by refusing to disclose the pricing details. Why pricing? It's such a technical thing, a small part of the picture, but I think in the pricing there is a great deal of detail that is hidden. You will remember that in 2014 when BJP came to power after pillorying the Congress party, painting it as corrupt and offering themselves, Mr. Modi offered himself and his party as a clean alternative. Now the compliment is being returned and so on. And until the terrorist attack followed by Pulwama, I think this was gaining a lot of momentum, and it remains to be seen how much significance it will have in the election campaign.